somebody recently said, which I like, multi-CDN is basically an insurance policy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, but it's an insurance policy that kind of has a pretty high premium. And the deductible is pretty high when you need the insurance. Like I have never had a multi-CDN customer say the phrase to me, "Oh yeah, that big incident that happened, we didn't even notice." Like I've never heard, like the on the sales side, it's like, "Oh yeah, once we have multi-CDN, things can just go wrong and then everything will self-heal and everybody will be great." In practice, multi-CDN buyers have, maybe to your point because of the resourcing, almost more stringent SLAs and expectations of what they want out of a CDN, and that's ignoring the fact that all you're doing is shifting your single point of failure from your large multi-continent footprint CDN to your not quite as large footprint, not quite as long track record, not quite as bulletproof infrastructure multi-CDN provider. Today, if I look at the big two, if it's like, who I want powering my live events? Citrix and IBM.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
That's a recipe for, that's where I want the single points of failures to be. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a point earlier about what happens when a fiber cut happens in this location. Services go down. When I know of more than a couple of instances where a content provider was using upwards of 4 different CDNs, actually 5. And in one case, a particular metro city went down completely. And what wasn't taken into account was these same CDNs, these 3 CDNs I was operating for this content provider, happened to be using the same network. When that fiber got cut, guess what? All the CDNs went down, and that's another factor I try to consult people on when you're looking at that from a capacity and a service continuity standpoint. It's not so much how much. Let's talk about capacity for a moment. It's not so much how much CDN capacity there is. You can put out all kinds of. It's what the network can support. Yeah, along with that, right? And the same thing about redundancy. If you're using the same CDN in a major metro like a Tokyo or a Chicago or New York, but you haven't looked at what networks they're using for primary and redundancy, you may be putting yourself at the same risk of using one CDN in this case. So people tend to overlook that.